Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast. I sat down with my friend, Sarah Johnson, who is an insanely strong monster of a woman. Sarah competes in weightlifting, powerlifting, and most recently, strongman competitions. Sarah is a career firefighter and a wonderful, wonderful human. I hope you enjoy the episode. Thank you for joining me on the Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, AZ. I find the research and resources and then provide the fire service with the so what, now what, to ensure the health and well-being of every member of our profession. Together, let's thrive. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast. I am here today with my friend, Sarah Johnson. Sarah, say hello to the podcast people.
Hey, everybody. Hope y'all are having a great day.
Well, they're going to be having a great day after this conversation because they are going to absolutely love it. I am excited about this one. And Sarah and I have known each other for a couple of years, and we met, of course, via Instagram, but we have met in real life too. So Sarah is an amazing young woman, just a monster in terms of strength and performance. And I'm excited for this conversation today. So Sarah, we're going to start with the hot seat questions. Are you ready?
I think so. I hope so.
She just took a big slurp of coffee. I saw it.
Yeah.
All right. Who is Sarah Johnson?
I'm a coach, a firefighter, and my biggest goal with all the things I do as a friend, as a dog mom, is to just positively impact others every day, to make a positive impact. That's always been my goal, no matter what, even as a strength athlete. So that's who I am.
And Sarah, you absolutely do that. I know you bring a lot of joy to a lot of people. I personally love watching you lift heavy things and post pictures of your dog named Doggy on Instagram. I should mention that Sarah does work for a fire department. She works for a relatively large fire department in North Carolina. So the views that Sarah expresses today are her own and don't represent those of her employer. So Sarah, what sets your soul on fire?
So you sent me these questions a couple of days ago because I asked, and I'm glad that I got you to send them to me because, I've got some, there's like the little shallow things that make you happy, set you on fire. Like when I hit PRs, big PRs especially, that fires me up, right? You get a huge adrenaline dump. If you're around a crowd, they all get fired up. They give you high fives. I love to cook, especially stuff in the smoker. So if you cook something that's really good, that first bite, you're like, heck yeah, like this turned out 11 out of 10 amazing. But I think the thing that gets me the most is, when you're coaching and you're starting to see all the pieces come together, and then one day it all clicks and they have this big breakthrough or they finally reach that goal that they've been trying to get for years and, they've been stuck. When that happens and you finally get to see them experience this huge, amazing thing, that does something deep inside of me that lifting never did. And that really sets me on fire. I mean,
That is a magical feeling as a coach. I can definitely relate to that. And Sarah, I'm going to go just a little bit deeper into this question for 1 second because you said that setting PRs and lifting heavy things is one of the things that sets your soul on fire. I watched you via video. I wasn't there live, but I watched you lift some crazy weight at Summer Strong and people were just going nuts. Sarah, what was that lift? What did you do?
So I did 2 lifetime PRs at Summer Strong. One of them, actually both of them were unplanned, but one of them was a lifetime PR clean at 280 pounds, and one of them was a lifetime PR deadlift at 430. It was a conventional PR. I've actually sumo deadlifted a little bit more, but oh my gosh, it's what I imagine if you took adrenaline and just mainlined it into that's what I think it would feel like, or like lightning.
Well, and And again, I wasn't there. I didn't get to see it in person, but I've spoken to a lot of people that were there, and they said it was just the most electric experience that many of them have experienced in their life. So super cool, Sarah. Super cool. Thanks for sharing. All right. Third question. Sometimes people think this is the hardest one. How are you changing the world?
So I talked about that a little bit in the Who Am I? And I changed the world by having a positive impact on others. By especially with younger kids, I've noticed people in their early 20s, teens. When I'm training with them, they'll say something. They'll say, "Oh, I'm going to try this today," or "I don't know about this today." And I'll say, "No, you're going to do it. There's no trying. You are going to do this. Talk about yourself the right way. Like, you are strong. You can achieve anything that you work hard for." And and I do that sometimes at work, not as much at work because I am newer, but when I'm coaching or training with people, like, you got to bring good energy, and that's how I do that, one person at a time.
So what Sarah is saying is basically she's Yoda. Either do or do not. There is no try.
My first weightlifting coach had that poster in his office, and that's where I took that from. And he would say that to me. He'd say, "No, we're not trying it. You're going to do it, or you're not going to walk up to the bar at all." Okay.
That's an unbelievable mindset. So cool, Sarah. So you compete in 2 and technically now 3 strength sports, but let's talk about those first 2, weightlifting and powerlifting. And I want you to tell, because some of the listeners probably don't know the difference, and they probably also don't know that most people do not cross over in those 2 sports. So tell me about those 2 sports.
Okay, so weightlifting is an Olympic sport, and it is comprised of 2 different lifts. The snatch, which is taking the bar from the ground to overhead in one movement, and then there's the clean and jerk, which is you take the bar from the ground to the shoulders and then overhead, so it's 2 separate movements. And at those meets, you get 3 attempts at each lift, and then powerlifting is the squat, bench, deadlift, which most people are familiar with. You go to most YMCAs, you're going to see people doing those 3 movements. And Olympic lifting is much more technically demanding and much more demanding on your mobility. So if you don't have good rhythm and you don't have a lot of mobility, those can be very hard, and they take a long time to get good at. Powerlifting, I think, is a little faster to pick up, which is why most people do that.
And my perception, Sarah, is that powerlifting, although technique is involved, of course, always with any sport, but powerlifting is so much just pure brute strength, whereas the weightlifting has a larger finesse and power component. Would I be accurate? And if I'm not, tell me I'm wrong.
It's pretty close, and you are right. You do have to have some technical skill when you do the powerlifting, because if you look at really good bench pressers, really good sumo deadlifters, they have really, really good technique, and they've learned how to use the body type that they have to lift the most weight. But with Olympic lifting, you could be an amazing lifter, and if you miss your overhead position by a centimeter, you're probably going to miss. Or a lot of times when I miss, I'll feel it drift forward off the floor, and you already know it's either you're not going to make it or you're going to have to do something sketchy to save it, which is not a good feeling.
I kind of want to sing a song right now. Time to do some sketchy shit. Okay. Anyway.
Every time I lift.
Me too, Sarah. Me too. And so because of the different demands of those 2 different sports, it's my perception that because they truly are different, that's why most people don't cross over and dabble into both. Accurate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, accurate. Yeah, that's why most people don't cross over. They're very different, and they're very different people that do them, I think.
I would agree. I think one of my favorite clients I ever had, in fact, and he was a nutrition client. He was not a sports performance client. He was a nutrition client, but he was a weightlifter. And I'm telling you, I was so invested in his meets and so invested in his performance. And my whole firehouse would sit around and watch. Here's a little shout out to Will Easley. They would sit around and watch him. And there's so much grace and so much power involved that it's so impressive.
It is. There's actually a weightlifting team called Power and Grace because of that, and they're one of the better teams in the country. So,
I'm pretty sure that my invitation for Power and Grace got lost, potentially because I have no grace. I'm not sure, Sarah. I'll follow up. Okay, I kind of hinted at the fact that you were also dabbling in a third sport. Tell us about that.
So, I've been thinking about stopping weightlifting for a while now, mostly because it is hard on your joints, which I say all that, and strongman is hard on your joints too. But I've gotten kind of burned out on weightlifting. I've been doing it for a while, and I've had some of the same issues and same problems pop up. And I've had a couple of coaches tell me, hey, you should do strongman, people that are really good at this and really good at that, but maybe not the best, usually really excel at strongman. I also think it's going to carry over to work the best, which is another reason I wanted to do it. So I signed up for my first meet, which will be April 1st at Myrtle Beach. Super exciting. And I went full send. So in strongman, you can do novice, which means you've never competed before, or you can do open and then pick your weight class, which is people that have competed, potentially people that have pro cards, and that's what I signed up for. So,
of course you did.
Who knows what I'm getting into?
Because why not? All right, well, I'm actually going to tag Keith Hare in the show notes. Keith is the strength and conditioning health and wellness guy at Horry County, which is Myrtle Beach. So I'm going to make sure he comes and watches you compete. Amazing.
Yeah, we met at Summer Strong. He was there.
Yes, and probably cheering you on. One of the nicest guys in the world. So, Sarah, how has your training in all of these strength sports either helped or hindered your career in firefighting? Tell me about that aspect of it.
So, I personally believe that being a weightlifter and a powerlifter has only made me a better firefighter. But I do think that being a firefighter definitely affects my training, not always in the best way. Because, at the end of the day, I'm not making any money weightlifting or powerlifting. And if the tones go off at 2 a.m, I can't say, oh, well, tomorrow's max out Friday. I can't get up. You guys are going to have to go without me. No, you have to get up and you have to go to the call and, run the lift assist or the fire alarm or the house fire and then watch the sun come up, And then you go home and get a nap and hope for the best.
And smoke something and hope for the best.
Yeah. So, but I do think it's helped a lot because when we would do any type of physically demanding things during recruit school or anything during work, it was never really a problem for me to, I had to learn the technique, but I learned how to flip a ladder up on my shoulder and throw it that way, that's a pretty physically demanding task that not everybody could do. Or picking up a bunch of heavy stuff and carrying it from point A to point B. I've never had any issues with that. I do really well on the abilities test every year. Anytime we have to go do a lift assist on a larger patient, all the guys always joke, they're like, oh, we'll just let Sarah pick he or she up, it's no big deal. So,
well, it's true, and like really you said, it's in the technique, and you have the technique. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me, you have actually been a firefighter since I've known you. I did not know you prior to firefighting. So how did you come to be a firefighter?
So I found out what the schedule was, which was very appealing to me. I was like, oh, they work 10 days a month. I have so much time to train, which is true. I do have tons of time to train, and I hate desk jobs, cannot stand them. I love helping people. So you can already see it's checking the boxes off. So I get to do cool stuff all the time. I was just like, this is perfect. This is perfect. I get to train as much as I want. I get to help people. I get to do cool stuff. I don't have to sit at a desk. And then I went and I applied in the city I work for and got hired, and I have absolutely fallen in love with it. It has been the best thing ever. And I still get to coach, which is another perk. I have the two best jobs in the whole world, in my opinion.
And Sarah, you mentioned your schedule, and sometimes that helps your training and sometimes it hinders your training. Are you on a 24/48 schedule?
We work a modified 24/48. So during the business week, it's 24 on, 48 off. And then on the weekend, you're either on a 4-day weekend, which is what I'm on right now, or you're 24 on, 24 off. So you either work Friday, Sunday, Saturday, Monday, or you get all 4 of those days off. So those 4 days off are really nice. You can do a lot of stuff in that time period.
So I'm trying to do the math in my head and it's not working very well. How many shifts or battalions or whatever you want to call it, how many groups do you have in order to cover that schedule? In other words, I'm on 24/48 and we have 3 battalions.
Okay. We have 3 shifts. So let's see. So this morning, I'm on shift 3. So shift 3 got off, shift 1 came in, and then shift 1 and 2 will flip-flop back and forth until we come back on Tuesday. And then it'll be back to the normal schedule.
Okay, you know what? I've never heard of this schedule.
It's a very weird to explain, but I've heard this from other firefighters. You just kind of, your body starts to know when you're supposed to go to work and when you're not supposed to be at work.
So with that schedule, Sarah, do you know how many hours that adds up to per pay period? I'm at 99 per pay period.
112.
112 per pay period. Okay. Cool. And just continuing on with your firefighting career, are you in North Carolina, are you on a pension system? And if so, how does that work?
We are. If I understand it correctly, they take 6% of our pay every year. And currently we're on a 30-year system, and they're pushing for new legislation that would change us to 25. So if that goes through, that'll be a game changer because that'll shave 5 years off my retirement. And I would retire at 52. And if they leave it at 30, I'll retire at 57, something like that.
And it is a young person's job. I'm telling you, I'm in my early 50s now and things are painful. All right, well, I'm going to start asking you for some advice now. So let's start. We're going to break it down. We're going to break it down into I'm interested in powerlifting or weightlifting, and then we'll move on to I'm interested in firefighting. So we have a young or even a middle-aged person who says, I would love to start competing in one of these strength sports. What would you say to that person?
I would ask them why they wanted to compete first and figure that out. Once you figure out the why, then we can figure out everything else. Because if you tell me, let's say it is a younger person and they say they want to compete for fun versus, hey, I want to go to nationals, I want to train for those are two very different things and with two very different ways that you're going to push them and talk to them. And you still want it to be fun, obviously, but things are a little more serious if you're training to make a world team compared to I'm doing a local meet just because I want to. Then I would tell them, okay, we know that. If they're asking me in person, I'm going to say, hey, do you want to work with me or do you want to work with one of my coaching friends? I have several in this area. If they're not local and they're messaging me from far away and had never done it before, if you've never Olympic lifted, I personally think it's better to have somebody that's hands-on right in front of you, cueing you and working with you. Because I've coached people online that when I worked for Travis Mash that didn't have a lot of weightlifting experience, and it can be hard to try to get them to grow and technically learn and become very proficient in the movements just through a video. It can happen and you'll make improvements, but I don't think it happens as quickly as if you're standing right in front of them. So, and I know coaches all over the place, and if I don't know somebody, I know people who will find them. So I can find you a coach.
This
that would be
sporting
mine.
world is a very close and very, it's amazing. If I remember right, Sarah, I had reached out for you or to you to get a coach for someone who had recently relocated from Illinois, and it was like 2 seconds later you had a bunch of suggestions. So that's absolutely, reach out to someone who knows what they're doing, and they can get you lined up with someone to work in person. I think that's great advice. So now let's flip it over, Sarah, and say I am a young male or female, and I'm considering a career in the fire service. What would you tell that person?
I would ask them once again, why do you want to be a firefighter? Why? And not because I want them to not be a firefighter. I've talked to tons of people that I want to be a firefighter. How do I become a firefighter? Well, first thing, you have to apply, obviously. Second is you need to realize that this is a mentally and physically demanding job and that you need to be ready for that. Then I would ask them if they want help. If they want help, they can work with me. Once again, I know tons of different gyms in the area that train people tons of different ways. You can come train with me at my gym, or you can go to another gym or work with another friend that I have that will help you get physically ready for the abilities test, because you don't get an interview. I don't think you get an interview anywhere around here if you don't pass the abilities test. And then you got to be ready for recruit school. We do PT 3 times a week. I personally don't help with the PT, but doing PT 3 times a week, and then you've got the fire classes, that's a lot. It's very stressful on your system. You need to be ready for that. So I would tell them that they need to start getting physically prepared to work really, really hard for 6 months, and they need to be in really good shape. That'd be my biggest advice. Maybe find somebody that's already in the fire service to help them with that.
And that's great advice. Whatever you're trying to do, start a business, build a house, find someone who knows what they're doing, ask them for advice, and then do what they told you to do. That's kind of the key. That's the hack. And as you were speaking, Sarah, I was thinking, what do you wish you knew about the fire service that maybe you didn't know before you got into it?
Let's see. What did I not? That's a good question.
Maybe you knew it all.
I did not know it all. I definitely did not know it all. I wish I had known how many different things that we do, and the different, I didn't know that we ran the kind of med calls that we run. I didn't know we ran lift assist. I had no idea. Not that that's bad. I just didn't know. I didn't know that, at most jobs it's 8 to 5. You start at 8, done at 5. You might have to answer an email at 5:30, 6, and then you can turn your phone off and nobody bothers you. At work, and they told us during the interview, hey, you might be doing crazy stuff for 24 hours straight. And that is 100% true, because we switched a truck over at 10 o'clock last night. And who would have ever thought that sometimes I look at stuff, I'm like, who would have thought this is what I'd be doing right now? Or one time we landed a helicopter for a class full of kids to do an air care presentation. I was like, who would have ever thought that I'd be doing this right now? This is so cool. And then sometimes it's not cool, but mostly it's really cool stuff. I wish I had known the scope of things I would be getting into, because I thought firefighters just ran fires. I thought that's what they did. And car wrecks. I had no idea that we do all the pub eds that we do. I didn't know that we go to schools. I didn't know that we do all this med stuff that we do. I did not know I was going to have to be an EMT. I should have I didn't even Google it. I just was like they asked me at the interview, they said, did you look at our website? I was like, I did not. I did not prepare for this interview. It's not a good idea. I don't know. It's a good thing I'm strong, because I did not prepare.
Sarah, that's going to be the quote of the day. It's a good thing I'm strong because I did not prepare. And if you're listening, here's a tip. Do make sure that you check out the fire department's website. You can see how many calls they run a year, how many stations, and all of that stuff. And so, Sarah, you kind of already answered my question, but you said you have to be an EMT, and I'm assuming an EMT basic.
Yes, We currently do not run any squads or paramedics or ambulances. We have county EMS, they do all that. So we do the initial care, we help them get loaded up on the ambulance, then we go back to the station. Sometimes we'll ride in if they don't have enough people and it's a pretty traumatic call, but that doesn't happen very often.
Okay. And then you told me before we started recording you have about 330 employees. How many stations and then what square mileage do you cover?
I'm not sure what our square mileage is. We have 19 stations in service, and we have one that is supposed to be opening soon. So we've technically got 20 stations, but one of them doesn't. There's nobody in it yet. They're supposed to be in a while ago, and it just hadn't happened. So it's a pretty good sized department.
That's a very good sized department.
I don't know what our average call volume is either. I'm not sure.
You know what? You can look that up on the website. So Sarah, go ahead.
At one time it was on our website, and they hadn't updated it for a few years, and I haven't looked to see if they've updated it. I know it's in our reporting system. Our reporting system's kind of cool. It'll tell you how many the cities run, how many each station is run, and then there's another way up there to look to see how many each firefighters run, which is really cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I was just about to start transitioning to closing questions, but I thought of something else. In your 19 stations, what types of equipment do you have available for physical fitness? So that's part one. And part two, what are your department policies in terms of working out on duty?
Oof. So right now in our stations, if you have exercise equipment, it is something that somebody else has brought in. So a lot of the stations just have hand-me-down stuff, or, hey, so-and-so's uncle was getting rid of this elliptical, let's put it in the bay, or, hey, I'm not using this weight bench at my house. At my station, we have a plyo box and a 20-pound dumbbell, and that's it. So I think I've posted 2 or 3 videos at the station I'm at now of me lifting weights with bumper plates and a bar and all that stuff. I would bring all that stuff in my car and unload it into the bay, use it, then load it all back into my car. Some of the stations, pretty sure a couple of the stations have squat racks and dumbbells, but it's like I said, it's all stuff people have brought in. We do have a training center downtown. It has either 2 or 3 racks, bars, some bumper plates, some very basic stuff. And we're supposed to be doing a Pure Fitness trainer class in 2 months, the first week of March, and we're going to get all the equipment from running that class. And that'll be, we're trying to shift the culture in the department to a more wellness-based, physically cultured department where we want to work out, and we want to train, and we want to do all these things, but for a long time it just wasn't that way. And so now we have to transition to it. They put out a policy this year about our abilities test, which is a reason we're running this Pure Fitness trainer class. They said if you don't pass your abilities test, you come off the truck for X amount of days, which is the first time they've ever put anything like that in our policy. We do get an hour a day to work out. I would say a lot of stations, if you do work out, it's 1 or 2 people. It's not the whole crew. I know there are exceptions to that. There are crews in the city where the entire crew works out, or the entire crew is into physical fitness, but it's just it's going to have to slowly change. It's not going to be a fast thing. And I went to the coaches conference last week, and I talked to a couple of different vendors about equipment, and then hopefully eventually we'll get some of that equipment into these stations. And even if it's a squat rack, a sled, and a sandbag, just something simple, but very limited right now.
And I'm sad for you that you don't have a lot of equipment, but I am really pumped that you are allocated that time, because in my opinion, the department giving you time that's the biggest barrier for entry. So I am pumped about that. Great things coming on the horizon for you guys too. I love that. So Sarah, if I were to say, What did I miss today? What did I forget to ask you? What were you hoping to share that I just blew it? Do you have any parting thoughts?
I wouldn't say you missed anything. I do like to talk about how I train, but that's, if people want to hear about that, I could talk about that all day, literally all day, literally all day.
Give me the wave tops. I want to hear how you train. I really do, but not all day.
But not all day. Okay, so my coach is Travis Mash. If you've never heard of him, go look up his page, Mash Elite Performance. He is super strong and also super smart. Just a little brag on him. And his big thing is that he has taught me and given me, and it has been very helpful as a firefighter, is velocity-based training. That has been a humongous game changer for me and for a lot of the kids that I train with at Lenore Ryan. That's their big thing too. So velocity-based training, essentially, you have a strength curve, and so lightweights move fast, heavyweights move slow. I think they teach you that in every biomechanics or physics class that you take. So all velocity-based training says is that, hey, your 70% is usually, it's going to move at this speed, 90, 95, 100% is going to move at this speed, and you're going to fail if you get below this speed. And so you can set parameters for the day and say, hey, you can't drop below 0.45 meters per second. And it looks crazy. It looks like something out of a science fiction book, but it's a clip that goes on the end of the collar, and it's got a laser beam that comes out of it, and it bounces off a reflective mat and tells me how fast the bar is moving. And you want to talk about a game changer on days where you don't feel good or you didn't get enough sleep? It's outstanding. And there's some days there's 3 different types of athletes. There's fast and weak, in the middle, slow and strong. I'm slow and strong. So I'll make a squat at speeds that most people would not make it at. I'll deadlift so slow the thing won't pick it up. And so I know, hey, I have to cut this off if I'm working up to a heavy single before I get to that point. And if you're somebody that is powerlifting and you've got a little bit of extra money and you want to enhance your training, I don't really use it for my Olympic lifts much, but my squatting, pressing, it's really, really good. I would encourage you to look into that. Look into the gym aware equipment. If you're a department that has some extra money and you want to enhance your training for your firefighters, get some flex collars. I wouldn't leave them in the stations. I would make sure there's one person who's in charge of them because they're pretty sturdy. They're not going to break if you drop them, but they're pretty small, so they might get lost. And then there's the gym awares with the tethers, and those are basically indestructible. I don't have one of those, but they're really cool too. So I just got back on one of Travis's programs, but before that, I was running, if anybody knows what Louis Simmons and conjugate is, I was running a conjugate program. And so I'd have a heavy squat day or a heavy good morning day with accessory work. Same concept for upper body. So I do a heavy bench press with a specialty bar or heavy overhead press. I do a ton of accessory work, and then I have a speed day with bands or chains for both. And that, one, it works really well with our schedule because you typically you're going to work a day, then you're going to have 2 days off. So you get 2 of your training days back to back, then you get another day off, and you come back and you do your speed days. So you get enough of a break that you can still train really hard. And I would do my heavy lower day and then have my next day off and then do my heavy upper day before I went to work. So my legs usually weren't dead when I'd get to work, because that's kind of important too. You can't just fry a firefighter and then send them back to work.
Sarah, I heard so many things here. First of all, you said there's 3 types of athletes, but you didn't mention my type of athlete, which is slow and weak.
No, that's not true.
So there should be 4 types.
No, there's definitely not.
The other thing, Sarah mentioned putting the collars, having one person be in charge of them. This is because we know firefighters operate in this way. You can put a firefighter in a locked room with a rock or 3 rocks, I
Yes.
should say, and come back and they lost one, ate one, and broke one. So
Yes.
that's just how we work. Okay, but now I have a serious question, Sarah, because I don't have a lot of background with velocity-based training. And I want to make sure I understood it. The velocity-based training predicts more or less that if the bar is moving too slow, you're going to fail. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Okay. And so using velocity-based training for a firefighter who's tired is going to help them know they have to take weight off the bar in order to move fast enough not to fail. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yay.
Absolutely. So you could take a group of firefighters and you could say, hey, we're going to do a 5 rep max. I want you to stay above, you can pick a number, 0.5, 0.4, depends on your group. And then you can say, hey, if you're, you're going to see a little bit of drop off. Sometimes you say, hey, if you're doing your 5 rep max and you hear below, 0.5 is what we want to hit. But if you get below 0.45, below 0.4, you're cutting it off, you're done. And we have to take weight off the bar. Because you don't want to see that big drop. The way Travis explained it to me is like if you see over a 20% drop in the velocity from the start to the beginning, it trains your slow twitch fibers instead of your fast twitch fibers.
That makes sense.
Pretty sure that's what he told me.
That makes sense. Also, I'm feeling like Travis should be maybe presenting this topic at NSCA Tactical.
I think he would really enjoy that. He really enjoys the tactical population. He just specializes in weightlifting, powerlifting, strength sports. But we talk about it quite a bit, and that was one of the big reasons he wanted me to do it is because right when I got out in the stations, it's a big adjustment. He said, you need to get this. I actually got hurt, and then he's like, you need to start doing this so that you don't get hurt anymore. Because if you can't train and then you're hurt and I didn't miss any work, but he's like, if you miss work and you can't train, that's not good. So we need to stay away from both of those things. It's another reason to use the velocity basis because it helps prevent those big injuries.
That is such good information, Sarah, and I wasn't even expecting that today. Thank you. Also, please tell Travis that the deadline for application for this year's Tactical Annual is January 28th, so he still has time.
Okay.
Let's get him there. Travis Mash.
Yeah. I know he went to the coaches conference to run the GymAware booth. I wonder if he's going to be at that one to run the GymAware booth as well. I don't know. I have to ask him.
Yeah, definitely ask him because I think that's a topic that police, fire, and military all could benefit from that topic.
I think everyone. I'm biased because I love it, and I probably use it a little different than Travis does just because, I'll squat until I get really slow and then just keep going because I need to hit heavy 1 rep maxes. But on speed days, especially if it gets below a certain point, I'll take weight off the bar. It's changed. Sometimes it'll change what you're going to do for the day. So it's very, very beneficial for first responders and military.
I love this topic, and I'm going to put in the show notes, I'm going to put Travis's website. I'm going to put a little blurb on velocity-based training and also a link to the GymAware so people can get some more information. All right, one final topic, Sarah, then I'll let you go. I need you to tell the people about Doggy. Tell us about Doggy.
Oh, sweet Doggy. Sweet
She's
Doggy.
So adorable.
So, where do we start? So right now, Doggy lives with her Mima and her pawpaw because I had to move, and my roommate is allergic to dogs, but she gave me a really, really good deal on where I live. So until I buy a house or something like that, she's absolutely living her best life at Mima and Pawpaw's. She goes on car rides every day. She gained a ton of weight while she was there, which I don't know if you guys know this or not, but apparently some labs have this gene that makes them never feel full. So they just eat nonstop.
I have that gene.
Same.
Okay.
Me and Doggy are almost the same person. She's my spirit animal. And so my parents have other dogs, and what she was doing is she would eat her food, and then they would leave some food in their bowl, and she'd go on cleanup patrol. and then Mima would give her table scraps. So I told Mima no more table scraps. But she is just she's this sweet black lab. I rescued her when she was 6 months old. I was in college, so she's been my dog of my 20s. She's been with me through college, through weightlifting, through injuries, through moves, through just anything and everything. Just living her best life. I'm trying to give her best life. She gets a steak on her gotcha day, and she gets a steak on her birthday. So my mom's birthday and her birthday are very close together. So this year on my mom's birthday, I went home and I brought home, do you guys have we have something called Harris Teeter. It's a grocery store you can go in. I don't know what it would compare to where you are. But anyways, you go to Harris Teeter. They usually have a cut on sale. And they had porterhouse. So it's like, I want 6 porterhouses, one for everyone in my family and one for my dog. I don't want them all an inch thick.
Aww.
Yeah. So I get home and my dad goes, why do you have 6? And I said, one of them's for doggy. One of them's for doggy. She gets a porterhouse too.
How did he not know that?
I don't know. It's doggy's birthday too, Dad. Come on.
Well, and what I'm hearing, Sarah, is she's been with you through, like you said, college and injuries and everything, and now you're with her through thick girl summer and fall.
Absolutely. And she did go through a thick phase with me too, because I wasn't measuring her food. I didn't know you were supposed to do that. So I was like, why is my dog so big? It's like, I'm feeding her too much. But I put her on a diet right before she moved with my parents, and I was cooking her food. So I'd meal prep all her food, and I'd meal prep all my food. And then we were going on walks every day. We made friends with some of our neighbors. It was pretty cool. One of my old roommates picked on me. She said that I had a boyfriend down the street because he's probably in his 70s, one of my neighbors, and he would always come out and say hey to me and talk to me for 10 or 15 minutes. He's like my neighborhood boyfriend.
All thanks to Doggy.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, this has been such a pleasure. I was looking forward to it for so long. You mentioned that Instagram was the best place to get a hold of you, and I will put your handle in the show notes. Follow Sarah for weightlifting, strongman, powerlifting, and doggy adventures, and you will not regret it.
Absolutely.
So again, thank you everyone for listening. No specific calls to action other than if you have someone interested in firefighting or these strength sports, please share the episode. Sarah and I would both appreciate it. And with that, AZ and Sarah are officially out.
Bye, guys.